Well, the second speaker in favour of the motion is a cartoonist and also a novelist, well known for his work across many publications, including The Guardian, The Times, and The Morning Star. Between 2000 and 2008, he was Ken Livingstone's Cartoonist Laureate for London, Martin Rowson.
Look, I'll come clean. I'm sick of education. I was sick of it firsthand at the public school I went to in the 1970s, so I've given that game away as well. And I was sick of it while vicariously reliving it when our own children, after they'd been to a very good local state primary, went to their own so-called independent schools. I was sick of the compromises I made when our son went to his school, and even sicker of the fact that we had hardly any options left when our daughter, as our local authority in South East London accepts the nature of the blight and only provides 70% of the secondary places necessary to educate all the children in the borough. And I'm sick of the insistence of lazy and cynical politicians on the lookout for a cheap and easy mom and apple pie issue that education, so good they named it thrice, is empowering, transformative, and redemptive all in one. It makes me sick because, although it may well be true, in the real world, almost all of us know that education is actually a mixture in equal parts of tedium and terror. The only time in our lives, if we're lucky enough to stay out of prison, when we're compelled at our most vulnerable to enter a microcosmic society of unbelievable dysfunctionality, forced on a daily basis into a world of psychos, spazzes, swats, pervs, gimps, prats, jocks, and boneheaded thugs, and that, as the old gag goes, is just the teachers. And that reality makes me sick of the apparently universal consensus that education is just about the only effective engine of social progress. And it makes me sick because of the narrowness of ambition that bigs up the Gradgrindian societal potency of knowing the capital of Mozambique or the valency of tin at the expense of every other human experience or endeavour, or, dare I say it, any serious policies of real redistribution of wealth and power. And that makes me sick. And if that makes me sick, I'm made doubly sick by the kind of education on offer from public schools. Because, to be honest, the whole public school ethos makes me want to throw up. I'm sick of the play up and play the game sportiness. I'm sick of the sturdy manliness. I'm sick of the misty-eyed singing the school song sentimentality and the goodbye Mr. Chips mawkishness. I'm sick of the enforced and bogus sense of community, the mothers in Chelsea tractors exhorting me to the Friends wine and cheese quiz night. And I'm sick of those mothers' floppy fringe sons dressed in the latest Arsenal strip, speaking Jafaican in a vain effort to stop them being beaten up at bus stops. I'm sick of the buildings, the playing fields, the old boys associations, the ties, the blazers, the tuck shops, the dappled lawns, the Pims tents, the pavilions, the first 11 and the first 15, the alumni, the heritage, and most of all, the incredibly complacent sense of entitlement embodied by the whole bloody lot. And in fact, it's the complacency that makes me sickest of all. Because I'm also sick of the argument, one of the few that dares show its face in public, that public schools are all about what they give back to the nation rather than what their customers take. This is, of course, the trickle-down argument. Ask not what public schools do to society in hobbling the state sector, creating social apartheid or pauperizing the urban middle classes, but what their former pupils do for you. And observe all those brilliant and brilliantly educated young people honed to perfection in the white heat of this crucible of excellence, whose bought education buys them the best jobs in those monuments to selfless wisdom, the media, law, and banking. We'll pause for a moment to allow you to try and stop yourselves gagging as you reflect what exactly it is that's been trickling down for the last 30 years. And meanwhile, let's look at the motion. I'm a satirist. It's my job, in H.R. Mencken's words, to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. But that doesn't mean that I expect you to vote for this motion merely because you recognize that I'm feeling slightly queasy. But bear in mind precisely what it says. It's not calling for the abolition of public schools, even though, personally, I'd be inclined to release them, along with the banks, from the debilitating effects of welfare dependency, take away their charitable status, and let them slug it out in the kind of free market I suspect many of their supporters applaud. Instead, it merely asks you to recognize that public schools are a blight on the nation. This nation, not the People's Republic of China. What exactly do we mean by Britain? Is it the Queen, or the flag, the state? Spinsters cycling tipsily after a pint of warm beer to evensong? No, it's the people. The nation consists of its people. You, me, and the millions and millions of people who would never come to a debate like this in a million years. And what is the greatest blight afflicting our nation? What, to use a rather overheated phrase, has broken Britain? It's inequality. Study after study, from the spirit level to Oliver James's affluenza and beyond, have demonstrated that inequality is bad for us, for all of us. It sickens us, it maddens us, it makes us criminal, and it makes us miserable. We're maddened and sickened by the stress of status competition, and by the stress of arising from the injustice we naturally feel when confronted by it. Indeed, the very fact that we're capable of a sense of injustice, not just for ourselves but also for others, proves that we know it's wrong. It's not the way things should be. It's not right. It's not who we are. And it's what blights nations the more unequal they become. So what's this got to do with public schools? Well, they are the ultimate status symbols, and by their own admissions, as well as admissions policies, the epitome of elitism and therefore inequality, not just through wealth, but also through the promise of aspiration, but of the narrowest kind. The exponential rise in inequality overseen under the Thatcherite duopoly of New Labour and the Tories went hand in hand with both the vaunting of aspiration and the simultaneous degradation of any alternative, including, crucially, the idea of any validity in the dignity of the working class. To quote John Prescott, "We are all middle class now, or at the very least we should aspire to be. We were and are expected to shop our way to salvation through consumption, aspiring towards the increased status that gives us. And those unable or unwilling to do that have been abandoned in the race. As there is no longer any dignity in aspiring, for instance, to be a well-paid docker, the working class left behind, irrespective of ethnicity, has become the underclass, most of whom don't and never will work because they're on incapacity benefit, because actually they're ill, directly sickened by the system, fit only to be displayed as a kind of permanent freak show in programs like Shameless and Neighbours from Hell on the once radical Channel 4. To their credit, our political leaders now recognize the blight. To their shame, all they offer is the chimera of social mobility, never acknowledging the hidden truth that, for social mobility to work, people have to go down as well as up. And the reality is, as now, and it always has been, that there will never, ever be enough room at the top, particularly in a society like ours, epitomized at the top by the public schools, where the top has been sharpened into the shape of a marlin spike. If you want to put broken Britain back together again, you need to aspire towards creating a fairer, more equal society that doesn't exclude 20% of the population, or in the case of public schools, 92% of its children, and you do that through redistribution, not through education. What was that? That's it. Well, could I just say, very quickly, very, very quickly. When we speak of the nation, we need to speak of the entire nation. The stupid, as well as the aspirational intelligent. The poor, as well as the rich. The unambitious and the alternatively ambitious, as well as everybody else. And we need to actually admit that there are people who never really want to look at that shining city on the hill, exemplified by Harrow, but whose aspirations should be recognized, and they should not be offered only that, because that is the true blight that is blighting this nation, because, like fish, societies rot from the head down. Thank you very much.